My name is Lauren Hayes. I am 34 years old, and 6 months ago, I watched my entire life collapse like a house built on sand. My husband didn't just leave me, he left me for my sister. He said it was love, said it was fate, said I should be happy for them. And the worst part, they were expecting a baby, a little girl, a miracle, they called it. But here's the thing. I knew something they didn't. Because years ago, before we were even married, Eric and I sat in a cold clinic and heard the truth he couldn't have children. His fertility levels were nearly non existent. I never told him. I didn't want to break his heart. But now, as he stood by my sister's side hand on her belly, eyes full of pride, I knew that either God had rewritten science or someone was lying. And during Amanda's baby shower, in front of dozens of family members, friends, and pink decorations that made me want to scream, I told the truth, out loud, and everything changed. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I would have told you my life was steady. Not glamorous, not thrilling, but solid. I had a husband who made my tea just the way I liked it, 2 sugars, splash of oat milk. I had a cozy house with hardwood floors and a crooked bookshelf we built together on a Sunday afternoon. I had routines. I had peace. His name was Eric Hayes. We met during our sophomore year at university. He was quiet, quick-witted, always a little bit older than the room. I liked that. I was the organized one, the list maker, the planner. He was the anchor, steady, loyal, dependable. Or so I thought. We got married 5 years ago in a small outdoor ceremony, just close friends and family. My dad cried. My mom held Amanda's hand tightly as she gave her toast. Amanda? She was 3 years younger than me, but you'd think she was the older one with the way people gravitated toward her. She had this golden energy, messy, chaotic, magnetic, the kind of girl who could walk into a room and bend it around her like gravity. And I loved her, God help me, I really did. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the achiever. Amanda was the hurricane. She forgot deadlines, dated musicians, dyed her hair purple in 11th grade just to feel something. My parents adored her anyway. They always said I didn't need as much attention. That's probably why I spent so many years covering for her. When she crashed Mom's car, I took the blame. When she dropped out of community college after one semester, I helped her find a job. When her long-term boyfriend dumped her and she lost her apartment in the same week I opened my door. At the time, it didn't feel like a mistake. Eric and I had just converted the guest room into a reading nook plush chair, floor lamp, a basket of cozy blankets. I was so proud of it. But when Amanda called me sobbing, saying she had nowhere to go, I didn't hesitate. She can stay a few weeks, I told Eric, just until she finds a new place. He nodded. Of course he did. He always said yes to family. Amanda arrived with 2 overstuffed suitcases, a dying houseplant, and a bottle of wine she couldn't afford. She hugged us both like she was drowning and we were land. At first, it felt nice like old times. She'd play music while cooking, leave little notes on the fridge, tease Eric about his dad jokes. But the honeymoon didn't last. There was a night, maybe a week after she moved in, when I came downstairs around midnight to get a glass of water. And I saw them. In the kitchen. Amanda was barefoot, wearing one of my oversized t-shirts. Eric was leaning against the counter, holding a glass of wine. She said something funny, apparently, and he laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. And I froze. They weren't touching, not exactly, but there was something. Some invisible thread between them, something electric, something forbidden. I told myself I was imagining it. But the unease grew. Amanda started making dinner before I got home from work. She started wearing mascara just to lounge around the house. I'd come home and find her curled up on the couch next to Eric, watching shows he used to wait for me to watch together. Once, I opened the laundry hamper and found her bra mixed in with his socks, bright red, lacy. I stared at it for a full minute before quietly shutting the lid. Still, I said nothing. Because to accuse them would be to betray everything I believed about love, about loyalty, about family. Instead, I blamed myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe they were just bonding because Amanda had always been flirty and Eric was just being polite. But deep down, something inside me tightened, like a rubber band stretched past its limit. Eric started staying up later. I started going to bed alone. And still I said nothing. Until the night I saw her hand brush his shoulder, a soft, intimate gesture. The kind you give someone when no one's watching. Only I was watching. From the stairs. Frozen. Invisible. And in that moment, I knew. Not everything. Not the depth of it. Not the pregnancy. Not the betrayal that would fracture my world. But I knew something was wrong. And I knew it was already too late. Amanda didn't even try to hide it anymore. It started with little things, lingering glances, private jokes I wasn't part of, sudden silences when I entered a room. But eventually, they stopped pretending. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and saw her perched on the counter, legs swinging like a child. Eric standing just a little too close. Their conversation died mid-sentence when I entered. The look on their faces wasn't surprise. It was guilt. Later that evening, Eric asked if we could talk. The way he said it, so calm, so businesslike, set my skin on edge. We sat across from each other in the living room, the same place we'd opened wedding gifts, hosted game nights, exchanged Christmas stockings. Now, it felt like a courtroom. He cleared his throat and stared at his hands. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he began. "I said nothing. It just did. Amanda and I..." He looked up, eyes pleading. "We didn't plan this, but we've developed feelings, real feelings." I couldn't breathe. My mouth went dry. He kept going, like he'd rehearsed it. Like he thought if he said it fast enough, it wouldn't sting. "I think we owe it to ourselves to be honest," he said. "I care about her, and I think it's best if we end things, you and me, peacefully." Peacefully. He used that word like we were two business partners dissolving a startup, not a husband and wife unraveling 10 years of love. I stood up. My legs were numb. I walked to the window, staring out at the dogwood tree we planted the spring after our honeymoon. "You're leaving me," I said, flatly. He didn't answer, because I already knew. He was gone. Maybe he'd been gone for months. I just hadn't let myself see it. An hour later, Amanda walked through the door like a tornado in lipstick shopping bags in one hand, her phone in the other. She looked up, saw us sitting across the room, and without missing a beat, dropped the bomb. "I'm pregnant," she said, just like that. No shame, no hesitation, no remorse. Eric stood behind her, silent, the world tilted. I stared at her. "Is it his?" She smiled. "That smile will haunt me for the rest of my life. Who else would it be?" I felt my knees buckle. I gripped the arm of the couch to steady myself. Amanda took a few steps closer. "I know this is a shock," she said softly, almost patronizing. "But maybe this is what was meant to be. Maybe Eric and I, maybe we were supposed to be together all along." My voice came out hollow. "You're my sister." She shrugged. "And you never even wanted kids," she added. "You told me that once. Remember, you said you weren't sure you'd ever be a mom." I could have screamed. I could have broken every dish in the house. Instead, I just stared at her, at both of them, and something inside me cracked not loudly, not dramatically, but like a hairline fracture in glass, the kind you don't notice until it shatters completely. Eric stepped toward me, maybe to offer comfort, maybe to justify the unforgivable. I stepped back. Don't, I said. Not ever again. I packed a bag that night. Just the essentials: clothes, laptop, toothbrush. I left the house I'd built, the life I'd nurtured. They didn't try to stop me. Not once. That hurt more than anything. I drove to my best friend Megan's place. She took one look at my face and opened the door wider. "You don't even have to explain," she whispered. "You're staying as long as you need." That first night, I didn't cry. Not really. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fridge, trying to convince myself that I wasn't the one who ruined everything. Because that's what betrayal does. It doesn't just hurt, it confuses. You start questioning every memory, every conversation, every look. Had Eric loved me at all? Had Amanda always been jealous? Was there something wrong with me? Was I unlovable? Days blurred. Megan made tea I couldn't drink. I showered twice a day because it was the only place I could sob without someone hearing. I started sleeping with my phone under the pillow, hoping for a text that never came. Not from Eric. Not from Amanda. My mother called once. Her voice was tight, cautious. "Lauren, honey, I don't want to take sides." But I hung up. I didn't need neutrality. I needed someone to say, "This is wrong. What they did to you is wrong." But no one did. Everyone tiptoed. Everyone waited. And me, I was stuck between heartbreak and rage. Until one afternoon, I opened Instagram. Amanda had posted a photo. She and Eric were standing in front of the fireplace, my fireplace holding a tiny pink onesie that read "Daddy's Girl." The caption was "Building Our Forever." Hashtag love wins. Hashtag baby haze. I stared at it until the screen blurred with tears. Building our forever. Love wins. Baby haze. They weren't just together. They were thriving, celebrated, excused. And that's when something inside me shifted. The grief didn't vanish. It crystallized, became sharp, controlled, cold. I remembered something, a moment I'd buried deep. 2 years earlier, right before our wedding, Eric and I had done a full premarital health screening. I remembered the doctor's face, serious and hesitant. "Eric's sperm count is critically low," he had told me privately. "The chances of natural conception are almost non-existent." I never told Eric. I thought I was protecting him. But now that same fact was a blade in my hand. Because either a miracle had happened, or my sister was lying. And I was done being quiet. There's a kind of silence that follows betrayal. It's not peaceful. It's not quiet. It's loud, deafening. It echoes in everything: your coffee mug, your reflection, the way you hear your name and still expect it to come from someone who loves you. After I left that house, the silence followed me like a ghost. To Megan's guest bedroom, to the grocery store, into meetings where I nodded at charts I couldn't see. I became a woman-shaped shadow moving through someone else's life. But beneath that silence, something else stirred. Clarity. Not calm, not grace, just clarity. Cold, focused, surgical. It started when I saw Amanda's post 1 week after I left. A picture of her and Eric in the living room I decorated, holding a pair of baby shoes. The caption read, "Building our forever. Hashtag love wins. Hashtag baby haze." I stared at that screen so long I forgot to blink. They weren't just pretending to be a couple. They were building a brand. They wanted applause for what they'd done. And the worst part? They were getting it. The comments were full of hearts and so happy for you messages from people who had no idea they were celebrating betrayal. Amanda had always been good at spinning stories, but this time, I had a story too. One rooted in fact, not fantasy. One they couldn't manipulate with hashtags and pastel filters. I remembered the premarital screening, the white-walled clinic, the doctor pulling me aside after Eric's appointment. His tone was cautious, his words clinical. Eric's fertility levels are critically low. Natural conception is extremely unlikely, less than 1% probability. I'd never told Eric. I didn't want to destroy his dream of being a father, so I carried the burden for both of us, quietly, like a good wife. I changed our diet, ordered male fertility supplements from obscure websites, bookmarked IVF clinics in private tabs, every night. I told myself maybe one day his body would surprise us. I hoped. I prayed. And now Amanda, my sister, claimed to be pregnant with his child. A child conceived so casually, so publicly. It spat in the face of every lonely moment I had carried that truth. No, Eric wasn't the father. And I was going to prove it. That night, I pulled out my old wedding files from a box Megan kept in her closet. Inside was the clinic's business card. I stared at it for a long time, wondering what kind of woman I'd become that this was now my ammunition. Then I emailed Dr. Willman directly. I didn't say much, just asked if he could resend the fertility analysis from 2 years ago. I told him it was urgent. He replied within the hour. Attached was the same PDF I remembered reading alone in the parking lot the day we got the results. There it was again in black and white: motility critically impaired, morphology abnormal, total viable sperm less than 1 million, natural conception unlikely. That was step 1. Step 2 was getting proof about the baby. I could have gone straight to Amanda, demanded a test, confronted her, but I didn't trust myself to survive that encounter without throwing something. Besides, Amanda would lie. She'd always been better at lying than I was at surviving them. So I went around her. Through Eric? Amanda had shared her baby shower invite online, like it was a concert. Everyone invited: family, friends, co-workers, people who didn't know anything except the version of the story she fed them. But I noticed something else in that post: a short clip of Eric holding up the sonogram with a grin, saying, "Can't wait to meet my daughter." His daughter. The word lit a fuse in me. There was one way to test paternity before the baby was born: a non-invasive prenatal paternity test. Expensive, discreet. I started making calls. Clinic after clinic said the same thing: I needed either the mother's sample or the father's. Getting Amanda's wasn't possible. But Eric, he was careless. I reached out to a private investigator named Camille Torres. She came recommended by a lawyer friend of Megan's clean record, tight-lipped, worked mostly on custody and infidelity cases. When we met, she didn't ask unnecessary questions, just listened, took notes, asked for names, addresses, timelines. I told her I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. She nodded like she'd heard it all before. "You'll have what you need," she said. "Clean, legal, untraceable." Over the next 2 weeks, Camille's team followed Eric. They retrieved a coffee cup he tossed outside a convenience store and a used napkin from a cafe. His DNA, tucked inside ordinary trash. That's all they needed. They handled the test. I signed the authorization, paid in full. Then I waited. Those days were the longest of my life. I went to work, smiled at coworkers, answered emails, gave presentations. At night, I stared at the ceiling while Megan slept across the hall. Every moment ticked like a bomb counting down. Finally, the results came. A manila envelope. No logo. Just my name, typed neatly. I opened it alone, sitting on Megan's kitchen stool with shaking hands. Probability of paternity 0%. Zero. A perfect final mathematical zero. Eric was not the father. I sat there for 20 minutes, not crying, not raging, just breathing. Slow, measured, alive. Amanda's baby shower was in 3 days. She had invited everyone, even me. She probably thought I wouldn't show up, or maybe she hoped I would, so she could flaunt her new life in front of the woman she stepped on to get it. Either way, I RSVP'd yes. Not to watch. To end it. Not with a slap, not with screaming, but with precision, with proof, with truth. In my purse, I tucked 2 things: the paternity test and the report from Dr. Willman, evidence irrefutable, sharp. I had spent months suffocating in silence. Now, I carried something louder than all their lies. I wasn't coming with a gift. I was bringing the blade. The day of the baby shower arrived with a perfect blue sky and a breeze that smelled like flowers and lies. My parents had rented out a banquet room at a local vineyard: white linens, pink streamers, floral centerpieces that looked like wedding rejects. A massive banner hung above the dessert table: "It's a girl." Amanda made her entrance like she was the star of a reality show: long peach dress, hugging her belly just enough to make it a centerpiece. Hair curled like she had stylists on retainer, heels clicking confidently across tile. She beamed like royalty. And trailing behind her, like a well-trained husband, was Eric. He wore a pale blue shirt I'd bought for our last anniversary. His hand rested on the small of Amanda's back like it belonged there now. People clapped. Some cheered. My mom wiped tears. Family friends whispered about how glowing Amanda looked. One of my aunts leaned over to me and whispered, "They just look so in love, don't they?" I smiled without showing teeth. They look like something, that's for sure. I stayed quiet, observed, moved through the room like a shadow, like I didn't belong, which was ironic, because half of the guests were only there because of me. I was the connection that tied Amanda and Eric to this community. They'd torn me out of the story, but the ink still showed. In my purse was the envelope. Heavy, not from weight, but from consequence. Inside the DNA results. Inside the medical report. Inside the blade I had been sharpening for weeks. I didn't plan to make a scene. I told myself I would wait until the end, pull Amanda aside privately, give them one last shred of dignity. That was the plan. But then Amanda took the mic. She tapped her glass with a spoon and turned toward the room like it was her stage. "Hi, everyone," she said, with that soft, rehearsed voice she used whenever she wanted something. "I just want to thank you all for coming. This pregnancy has been such a journey, and I feel so blessed to have Eric by my side." She looked directly at me when she said his name. And I feel so lucky to be surrounded by family. Even when things didn't start the way anyone expected, love has a way of finding its path. People murmured approval. She giggled. Eric smiled, his arms snaking around her waist like muscle memory. That's when I stood up. The sound of my chair sliding back was small, but it cut through the room like a siren. Heads turned. The room quieted. Amanda blinked. "Lauren." "I'd like to say something," I said calmly. Amanda glanced at my mother, then at Eric. Okay." I walked toward the front of the room, heels silent on the floor. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. It was already open. I held the papers in my hand like a weapon no one saw coming. "This will only take a minute," I said. "I'm not here to ruin your party. I just believe everyone here deserves the truth." Eric's brow furrowed. Amanda tilted her head, still playing innocent. This, I said, holding up the paper, is the result of a paternity test. Gasps rippled through the crowd like an earthquake in slow motion. Amanda's smile faltered. You what? I had doubts, I said, so I got confirmation. Eric looked at her. You told me. Amanda stepped forward. It is yours. Eric. Of course it's yours. No, I said, my voice clear, firm. It's not. I read it aloud. Probability of paternity 0%. Eric stumbled back a step. What the hell? The room exploded into noise. Murmurs. Gasps. Someone dropped a glass. My mother looked like she'd forgotten how to breathe. My father stared at the wall like he couldn't hear anything. Amanda's face crumpled. You did this to humiliate me. No, I said. I did this because I got tired of watching the two of you parade your betrayal around like it was destiny. This isn't love. It's a delusion built on lies. She turned to Eric, eyes wide. That test is wrong. It has to be. There's no way. I reached back into my purse and pulled out the second paper. This, I said, handing it to Eric, is from Dr. Willman, the fertility specialist we saw before we got married. Eric took it with trembling hands. His eyes scanned the page, his jaw clenched. Why didn't you ever tell me, he whispered. Because I didn't want to destroy your dream. I said, because I thought if we tried, if we waited, maybe something would happen. Maybe we'd find another way. Eric turned toward Amanda. I can't be the father. Amanda looked like she'd been slapped. No, she whispered. No, this isn't. Then who is? I asked. Dead silence. Amanda's lips parted, closed, parted again. She looked at Eric, then the crowd, then back at me. It doesn't matter. It does, Eric said quietly. His voice was flat, lifeless. It was someone from work, Amanda said finally, her voice breaking. It was before me and Eric were official. I didn't think I could even get pregnant. You lied, Eric said. I didn't know, she snapped. Then why didn't you tell me there was a chance? Amanda looked at the guests, as if one of them might save her. Phones were out. People were recording. A woman near the dessert table had tears in her eyes. I just wanted it to be real, Amanda said. I just wanted something that felt like a family. Well, now you have it, I said, just not the way you imagined. Eric dropped both pages. They floated to the ground like broken vows. He turned and walked out. Didn't say a word. Didn't look back. Amanda stood frozen. Her hands trembled as she tried to fix her hair, her dress, her face. But the room had already turned. There was no saving it now. She left too, without a goodbye. And just like that, the baby shower was over. People shuffled out, murmuring, avoiding eye contact. A few gave me sympathetic nods. One woman said, "You're braver than I could ever be." I didn't feel brave. I felt finished. Back at Megan's that night, I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. Not in shock, not in pain, just still. The weight of everything didn't crush me anymore. It had simply lifted. They had built their house on lies, and I'd torn it down with truth. Eric never came back into the room. Not to explain, not to apologize, not to collect Amanda's hand and salvage what was left. He just disappeared out the side door of the vineyard, like he couldn't breathe under the weight of what he'd just learned. I didn't follow him. That wasn't my job anymore. Amanda stood frozen for a while, as if her heels had fused to the tile. Her perfectly done hair fell limp around her face. Mascara smudged beneath her eyes. The room didn't offer her comfort. No one stepped forward to hug her. Not even our mother. especially not our mother, who sat in a chair near the dessert table, clutching a crumpled napkin, silent and stunned. Eventually, Amanda picked up her purse and left without a word. No more speeches, no smiles, no excuses, just the soft click of heels on tile and the door swinging shut behind her. That was how the baby shower ended. People began to shuffle out awkwardly, unsure whether to say goodbye or just pretend they hadn't witnessed a personal apocalypse. A few came up to me with cautious sympathy. One of my dad's cousins squeezed my shoulder and said, "You were always the strong one." Lauren. I didn't answer. I wasn't interested in compliments spoken in the past tense. That night, back at Megan's place, I curled up on the couch with a glass of wine and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, my phone didn't buzz. No calls, no texts, no apologies, just silence. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was clean. I didn't cry. I didn't feel victorious either. Just done. The next morning, I woke up before the sun and went for a walk. The air was cold and sharp, the kind that makes you feel like your skin is finally waking up with you. I walked for an hour, maybe more. I didn't think about Amanda, or Eric, or the mess I'd left behind in that room. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who stayed quiet, smiled politely, covered for other people's chaos. She was gone now. 3 days passed. Then Amanda showed up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Megan had just left for a late shift at work. I was home alone, folding laundry in the living room when the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there she was, no makeup. Eyes red and swollen, hair in a sloppy bun, sweatshirt hanging off her shoulder like it didn't belong to her. She looked like a ghost of the girl who had once twirled into that baby shower like a princess. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. I didn't move. I didn't step back. I didn't invite her in. "I just need 5 minutes," she said, "please." I walked outside and closed the door behind me. She started crying before I even said a word. "I swear I didn't know Eric couldn't have kids," she said between sobs. "I wouldn't have. I mean, I didn't plan any of this. I didn't know what I was doing." "You never do," I replied quietly. She flinched. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "It just happened." "That's your line," I said. "It just happened. You just fell in love. You just got pregnant. You just lied." Tears streamed down her face. "The guy, the baby's father, he wants nothing to do with me. He's married, with kids. He won't even answer my calls. He had a lawyer send me a cease and desist. And Eric, he's gone. He blocked me. He won't talk to me." I said nothing. Amanda wiped her face. "I'm scared, Lauren." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a second, I saw the girl who used to sneak into my room after nightmares. The one I taught to tie her shoelaces. The one who begged me not to tell Mom when she broke a vase at Grandma's. But that girl was gone too. "I need you," she said. "You're my sister." I met her eyes. "I needed you too," I said. "When I found you whispering with my husband in the middle of the night, when I saw the way you laughed at his jokes like they belonged to you, when you told me you were pregnant with a smile like it was a gift." She broke then, loud, messy, ugly crying. She dropped to the porch step like her legs had given out. I didn't rush to hold her. I let her sit in it. All of it. Every lie, every decision, every bit of rot she had tried to cover in glitter. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be a mom alone." I nodded. "Then I suggest you start figuring it out. I'm not asking you to raise her for me. Good, I said, 'cause I won't. She looked up at me with a kind of hollow shock, like she really believed I might take her in again, that I might forgive, that I might play the role of dependable big sister like I always did. But I didn't, I wouldn't. You burned your bridges, I said, all of them. I turned and walked back to the door. She didn't follow. When I stepped inside, Megan was just arriving home. She looked past me and saw Amanda curled up on the steps. She gone, she asked. Almost, I said. 10 minutes later, Amanda left. I watched from the window as she walked down the street, wiping her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. She looked smaller than I remembered, but I didn't feel pity. I felt distance, like watching a character from a story I'd already finished. That night, Megan poured 2 glasses of wine. We ordered Chinese food and ate on the floor like teenagers. We laughed about nothing, talked about everything except Amanda. Before bed, I sat at my desk and opened a fresh journal. On the first page, I wrote one sentence: I survived what tried to destroy me. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Moving out of Megan's guest room felt like exhaling after holding my breath underwater for far too long. I signed the lease on a quiet third-floor apartment with tall windows and hardwood floors that creaked in a way I found comforting. The place smelled like fresh paint and possibility. It wasn't big, but it was mine. There were no ghosts in the corners, no shared toothbrush in the bathroom, no memories woven into the carpet. I painted one wall teal, bought mismatched throw pillows, hung up my own art for the first time in years. There was no we here, only me. And that was more than enough. The first morning in my new place, I brewed coffee exactly how I liked it and drank it barefoot by the window, watching the sun climb between buildings. I wasn't healed, but I was present. And sometimes, that's the only kind of progress you get. I went back to yoga, started running again. I ate dinner with a book instead of across from someone lying to my face. I laughed out loud when I watched old sitcoms and didn't wonder if anyone else heard me. I wasn't lonely. I was alone. And there's a difference. Weeks passed. Amanda went silent. Our parents tried to mend things quietly, but I didn't answer their calls. Not because I was angry, because I needed space. I needed them to feel what absence really meant. As for Eric, he disappeared completely. No texts, no emails, not even an attempt at apology. Until he did email. Subject line: we need to talk. Lauren, I don't know what to say except that I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I was confused, lost. Everything with Amanda got out of control. And now, I don't even recognize myself. Can we meet just once? I need to say it to your face. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney. Because yes, I had hired one. Her name was Angela Lynn, sharp, precise, no nonsense. The kind of woman who wore confidence like a suit of armor. When I told her everything from the betrayal to the DNA test to the Instagram post, she didn't blink. Do you have documentation, she asked? I handed her the folder. She smiled. Good. Let's make this clean. We had a prenup, signed before the wedding. It protected my savings, my investment account, and the house which we'd agreed to sell. Split the profit. No contest. But Eric wasn't going to make it clean. A week after receiving the paperwork, his lawyer filed a counterclaim. Eric was contesting the prenup. He claimed emotional distress, said I had misled him by not disclosing his fertility issue earlier, that if I had been honest, he would have made different decisions, that I had stolen his right to choose. It would have been laughable if it weren't so insulting. This man had lied to me, cheated with my sister, humiliated me publicly, and now he was claiming to be the victim. Angela rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. He's trying to flip the narrative, she said. It won't hold. You have receipts. You have medical records. You have a private investigator's report and public social media posts. His case is made of paper. Let him try. He'll lose. But still it rattled me. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about how far some people will go to avoid accountability. Eric didn't want justice. He wanted leverage. He wanted to make me uncomfortable, to drag me back into the mud with him. I refused. I didn't respond to his lawyer. Angela handled everything. In the meantime, Amanda gave birth. A girl she named her Grace. I didn't visit, didn't send flowers, didn't ask to see a picture. I wasn't cruel. I was uninvolved. My mother called to tell me, voice thick with hope. She's beautiful, she said. You'd love her. I stayed silent. Amanda's seeing a therapist now. She's trying. Lauren, I still said nothing. Because trying doesn't undo damage. Trying doesn't fix betrayal. Trying doesn't make me trust again. Apparently, the baby's father, the one Amanda had slept with behind everyone's back, wanted nothing to do with either of them. He was married, had kids, and a job he wanted to keep. When Amanda contacted him, he threatened legal action, sent an actual cease and desist letter, told her to lose his number. Her dream life gone. Her daughter real. Her support system shattered. Amanda had told so many lies, even the ones meant to protect her couldn't find their way back. Eric, for a while, tried to play the peacemaker, sent emails with empty words and vague promises of closure. We were both victims. He wrote once, "We got swept up in something we didn't understand." Victims. He made a choice. She made a choice. I made a plan. And now they were both living in the mess I refused to clean up. One afternoon, I ran into my father at a coffee shop. I hadn't seen him since the baby shower. He looked tired, older, like the drama had aged him 10 years. He hugged me awkward, stiff but warm. "I just wanted to say," he murmured, "that I'm sorry. We should have seen it. We should have done something." I nodded. "You always seem so strong," he added, "like you didn't need protecting." I didn't need protection. I said, I needed someone to believe me. He didn't argue, just squeezed my hand. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than I'd gotten from most. Weeks later, Eric relented. He signed everything. No court battle, no press, just a signature and silence. It was over. I stood in my apartment that night with a glass of wine and a Spotify playlist I hadn't touched since before everything fell apart. I danced, alone, barefoot, laughing, not because I felt triumphant, but because I felt light. I felt free. Not everything ends in fire. Some things end in quiet. And that's enough. 1 year. That's how long it's been since the baby shower. Since I stood in a vineyard banquet room filled with pink balloons and white lies and told the truth that shattered everything. 1 year since I burned what was left of my old life to the ground and watched the flames with clear eyes. A lot can happen in a year. My apartment, which once felt like a stopgap, a place to crash until I figured out who I was, again now feels like home. The teal wall is still there. So are the mismatched pillows, the bookshelf I built on a rainy Sunday, and the small calendar that no longer marks heartbreak anniversaries or betrayal milestones. Just birthdays, coffee dates, new beginnings. I've learned to live alone in a way that doesn't feel lonely. I talk to myself in the mornings while making eggs. I hum in the shower. I buy fresh flowers every Friday. I know the name of the guy at the bookstore who recommends strange novels I'd never pick on my own, and the barista who always adds an extra shot without charging me. There's peace here, not the kind you fight for, but the kind that arrives after the storm, slow and quiet and undeniable. I bumped into Amanda once. It was late spring, a park near my building. She was sitting on a bench under a cherry blossom tree with a stroller beside her. I recognized her before she saw me. Her hair was longer, darker. Her face looked tired in the way new mothers often do, like sleep had become a rumor and time moved too fast. She looked up, our eyes met. She gave a hesitant wave. I nodded. We didn't speak. She didn't get up. I didn't walk over. That was the right distance. Her daughter Grace was chubby and alert, reaching for a stuffed animal dangling from the stroller handle. I looked at her for a moment, then looked away. Not out of anger, just closure. I didn't feel the urge to ask questions or pretend to care. She wasn't mine to wonder about. She never had been. Amanda didn't look angry or sad, just still. Maybe she was trying, maybe not. It wasn't mine to know. And that's the thing I've learned: closure isn't about getting answers. It's about accepting that some doors stay closed for a reason. I don't hate Amanda anymore. I don't replay her words or dream of revenge, but I don't trust her either. And that's okay. Forgiveness doesn't require reunion. It just requires release. I let her go. I let all of it go. As for Eric, last I heard he moved to another state, somewhere quieter. His LinkedIn shows he started a consulting firm. I don't check often. I don't care. He exists in a separate orbit now, one that doesn't intersect with mine. I don't know if he regrets what he did. And I don't need to, because his story is no longer mine to carry. Mine is simpler now, not perfect, not curated for Instagram, just real. I work, I rest, I laugh. I don't look over my shoulder anymore. I don't wonder who I need to be to keep someone from leaving. I love better. Not romantically, at least not yet, but in small, quiet ways. I love my friends fiercely. I love my Sunday mornings. I love the version of me who rose from the ashes of betrayal and didn't let it harden her heart. There's a man at work. His name is Jason. He has kind eyes and a dry sense of humor that sneaks up on you. A few months ago, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a meeting. I said yes. Since then, we've had a few more coffees, a few late dinners, long walks where we talk about nothing in particular. It's not serious, not yet, but it's something. And when he looks at me, it's not through the shadow of someone else. It's just me. And that feels new, not terrifying, just tender, like a bruise that finally stopped hurting. On the anniversary of the baby shower, Megan came over with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on my couch in pajamas, eating noodles straight from the container, laughing about the time I almost burned rice trying to impress a date in college. At one point, she raised her glass. To truth, she said. I clinked mine against hers, to growth. We smiled. Not the forced kind, the kind that lives behind your ribs and waits for the right moment to rise again. That night, when I went to bed, I didn't cry. I didn't think about Amanda or Eric or what they took from me. I thought about what they couldn't take. My voice, my dignity, my strength. They tried to break me. They did not succeed. And now I know this for certain. You can lose everything. You can be left behind. You can be lied to, betrayed, humiliated. And still you can rise. You can rebuild. You can find yourself. Not the version they molded, not the version you compromised to keep someone. The real you, the one who survives. And that is worth everything. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, a partner, a sibling, or maybe both, I hope this story reminded you of one thing. The end of something isn't always a tragedy. Sometimes it's freedom. Sometimes it's clarity. Sometimes, it's the beginning of everything better. If you made it this far, thank you for listening, truly. Leave a comment if this story touched you. Share it with someone who might need this reminder. And don't forget to like and subscribe because around here, we tell stories that heal, one truth at a time.